Hi everyone, this is Andrea from the Art and Nature Center, and today I'm going to show you a project on making mountainscapes out of newspaper. It's a 2D turned 3D type of project. The first step is my base that I'm using just a piece of cardboard, and I want to put a completely flat surface of newspaper first. So you could cover it just with a whole solid piece, but I kind of like it going in different directions. It makes it kind of interesting. So also if you had something like a glue stick, that would be helpful for this portion because you want the glue to be a little bit flatter. And I have it go over the edge a little bit because once I finish I'll cut that edge off. And it just kind of makes the parts of the background kind of interesting when you have overlapping pieces. But like I said, you could just use a solid piece if you'd like. So now I'm going to flip it over and just cut my edges even. The next step, we're going to make our mountains, but first decision is if I want a portrait, meaning vertical display, or a landscape, meaning horizontal. For this one, I'm gonna go landscape. For the mountain making portion, what I have actually done is taken my white craft glue, and in this Tupperware, I've watered it down with some water, so I have it's like a paper mache paste. So also if you don't have craft glue, you can do the flour water mixture to make the paper mache paste. So what I'm going to do is with much larger pieces, that's why I have it spread out in a Tupperware so that I can soak large pieces of newspaper. I'm going to dunk them in, and like some of my other projects, it's a little messy on your hands, so if you want to wear gloves, definitely this is the portion of the project for gloves. So I dunk it in, and then I kind of just rub off the excess, and then also scrunch it together. Not just to squeeze out the excess, but it helps get some really nice scrunched shape in there that's going to help us create our mountains. Now I'm kind of just, thinking from memory of seeing different mountain ranges and using my imagination, but if you want to Google and look at a specific mountain for this project, feel free to do that. So I'm literally gonna scrunch it up and think about different rocks and patterns that I see in a mountain range. And there's one of my mountain peaks. I'm just going to repeat that pattern. And something else you want to think about is your foreground and your background of your mountainscape, which means the background has imagery that falls into the back, and the foreground has things that come forward. So our larger mountains are going to be a little flatter, and the smaller ones that we want to come forward are going to be a little bit larger because we're also thinking three-dimensional. So the bigger the pieces of newspaper that you soak, the more three-dimensional layering that you can create. Really get this one to pop off my page. One more in the middle. I do like to do some small ones also. Adds a few mountain peaks in between. That is the newspaper sculpting portion. And once you're satisfied with how your mountains look, it's going to take several hours. I'd say, depending on how saturated it is, 2 to 3, maybe 4 for them to really dry well, so then we can do the painting portion. All right, now that I have a mountainscape that is pretty dry, good enough to start painting on, for this project, because I really like the way that the newspaper looks and I want to see it through the painting that I'm going to do on it, I like to use watercolors, because you can really play with the thin and thickness of watercolors or gouache paint in that way. But if you don't have watercolors, you can just also water down the thicker paints that you have. So I'm going to do a little bit of both. So let me start with my background, and I think I want a nice blue sky for this mountain range. I'm going to pull the blue into this little puddling area so I can control how watered down it is. It's important to do very translucent first and then go into the darker areas. Grab some more. I think I want it to get pretty dark up at the top. So you can see that taking it right from the square really makes that watercolor come out nice and rich and dark. That's what I want for the top half. I think I'm going to switch to lighter blue, even mix them a little bit. And you can do whatever type of sky you'd like. On my other one, I did a nice orange and yellow sunset-y sky. So let me get rid of the blue that's in there, because now I'm gonna think about how I want to paint my mountains. So with this mountain sculpting with the paper, it's really cool because we have all of these folds and like almost caverns that the darker paint can almost automatically soak into and really give you some depth almost automatically. So the first thing that I like to do is kind of give the mountains all one complete wash before I start going for the grooves in the darker tones. And I'm going to start just with my white. I'll probably add some browns in there, but I think I want these to be mostly white mountains. So because I don't have a white watercolor, I am watering down some white acrylic. So you can see that it already pools in our little crevices to make them darker without too much effort. Picking up your piece to make sure you get paint everywhere you want it to be is important. As you can see, just as I go, I keep adding little bits of more water to my mixture. Just want to get a nice even coat over the whole thing. Alright, so I'm pretty satisfied with that even coat. So now I'm going to go at the little folds and crevices that I want to sink into my background. So I'm going to go at them a little heavier and make them a bit thicker with the white, and then I'll probably add brown in there just to darken it up, because when we paint darker, that sinks further back and gives us interesting depth within our paintings. I'm gonna start adding some brown, so I'm going back to my watercolors. Now I'm thinking for the brown, I don't want it to be too translucent or runny. It's kind of nice that I'm doing it while the white is still pretty wet, because it helps it blend a bit better. If you want the colors to blend, continue to paint while they're still very wet, And if you want them to be very separate and sit on top of each other, wait in between colors until they dry. I've been pretty much painting with the same brush also, so something else you can think about is, you know, if you have smaller, larger areas, you can feel free to switch up your brush. I just like this one and it's working for me, so let's check my inside areas. Alright, so there's my mountainscape. I can probably continue to work at this for quite a while, but for now I really like the way it looks. I hope you enjoy this project and have a lot of fun sculpting and crafting your different mountainscapes. Please share your beautiful artwork with us, and thank you for joining me.